podcast listeners, if you hear my voice right now, I need you to do something for me. I want you to take out your phone or on your computer, go to Apple Podcasts, search for Ask Your Oldhead Podcast. You'll see my logo, my little picture, my little image there. Find the show. Please rate and write a review. It's a small thing, but it helps others find this work and find what I'm doing here. And it really, really matters, as small as that may seem. So if you could please do that before we get into the show, I would much appreciate it. Thank you for listening. Let's get into it. Peace. Peace. This is a Good Brothers episode. So, prepare yourself and, please enjoy. And as always, take the best part for yourself. Let's get into the show. Peace. I'm Majestic.
My brother, what's going on?
Man, it's all good. We out here on a morning time to record and add on, catch up.
Yes,
so I guess we're gonna try to get into two things. One, probably the thing that is on most people's minds at the moment, but the other thing of occurrence that had happened on the previous Sunday, in which the elements and everybody's extra play ass uncle got together and was singing Sam's, and I guess anyway, I'm not going to speak to like the Verzuz is such a cultural gift that it keeps on giving that it sometimes just you got to talk about it. You got to add on about it.
Yeah. And let me just say one quick thing about the Verzuz. I'm starting to realize I was listening to some other podcasts, and someone made a point. Well, the point they were making was that like where we're at now is like where recorded music was with like Napster and LimeWire, right? Like the idea of live shows is now going to undergo such a transformation just because of this and the very nature of it, right? And so it got me to thinking that Verzuz is truly one of the first like disruptional ideas of this new era of the perception of live music or live engagement for no other reason that, besides the Grammys, American Music Awards back in the day when the Soul Train Awards would come on, right? Like, Black folks had to make sure you watch the Soul Train Awards so that you could watch the Whispers, because the Whispers was going to do the Cabbage Patch. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you really have hundreds of thousands of people all watching the same thing at the same time to have a live music engagement that's not pay-per-view.
Right. You can just access it.
Right. You can just access it and watch it and engage, and it's paid for. They're paid. The thing is clearly self-sufficient because when I'm sure Triller didn't buy it for $10 and, to wampum from Timberland and Swiss, right? Mm-hmm. So clearly it's self-sustaining. But like it's truly the first disruptional thing, because at some point, obviously, there's some elements of live music that will come back, but there's some elements of live music that may now be relegated to, technology in a fundamentally different way. So I just wanted to kind of touch on that. The other thing, first thing I want to start with was that like, I think it was an interesting and important cultural shift. Well, they had already done it with Patti LaBelle and it wasn't Dionne Ward.
Gladys, wasn't it?
Gladys, yeah. They had made that shift before. Miss Gladys, yeah.
Yeah, I might have been disrespectful there.
But you know what I'm saying? Like this really kind of big cultural shift of being like, okay, we're going to take these two seminal Black soul groups and Black R&B groups and like place them center, even when the vast majority of us, to my point, might not actually go into see a Earth, Wind, and Fire show. Like if you said to me, Jesse, you want to see Earth, Wind, and Fire perform? I probably would say no. Like I'd be like, no, dog. Like, I'm gonna just put on the song. You know what I'm saying? And go off my memory, right? If you said to me, do you want to go see the Isley brothers sing? I'd probably tell you no, right? Yeah. That being said, I was able to enjoy it, you know. So what was your take kind of takeaways from it?
I mean, within the structure of the format, some of the things that stood out was one, songs. I realized, like, and especially soul songs, R&B songs, the songs that I feel I can sing along to, I like better than the songs that are like, I like that song, but that's too fast. I can't really. Like, that's a great song. That's a great song. Like if we was in the house and we was making, you know, it was like we cleaning the house, like,
right.
Like, yeah, I'll just get it on.
You can't get jiggy with that. Right. I understand.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? and so then like how that shapes how I feel about what you're doing. Cause then, and then also just like, so like, you know, cause I know some people keep a score, you know, even though it's sort of a score, sort of it's not, you know, but like, you know, the Isley brothers, they got a lot of them songs that's like it come on and you like, like you feel like you can sing. Like you know, you can't really sing, but you feel like you can. You know what I'm saying? And then when you know, Earth, Wind, and Fire also, though, they have a whole other like bag of like the musicality of the whole band and the experience.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's just a different thing. So it's like on one hand, they do fit together, but then they also, or at least I would say the Isley brothers, like love jams are more central to your thought of the Isley brothers. You know what I'm saying? And then later you get into the Summer Breeze, you know, at least depending on your orientation, the I got work to do, you know, here we go again, these songs that are more up tempo than you know, Don't Say Goodnight, you know what I'm saying? You know, Voyage to Atlantis, you know what I'm saying? So like the style of it gave it like, it was interesting because I was trying to read like if everybody was cool, like if everybody was comfortable with the format, because I couldn't tell at first if like it, at times, I mean, being three people and my man with his super silky smooth, you know what I'm saying, Verdell shit was out here like, you know what I mean? Like,
players is a player, man. Shoo.
And you know, Philip Bailey and they did and they're doing the other Jones and Maurice, and it didn't seem like at the whole time that they had a syncing of how they wanted to approach it.
Well, that's my point. That's my point, real quick. And just please go back to what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's my point where it felt like when someone's like Earth, Wind, and Fire and Isley's going to go at each other, it's like, are we going to get like, first of all, it's only 5, like, feels like remaining members of the entire function of everything they did. So, like, what are we getting here? Like, are we going to get the essence of what you thought about with Earth, Wind, and Fire? Are we getting the essence of it? Or are we getting, you know, what is, I think, relevant, the real today's reality? So, no, that's a really good point.
You know what I mean? And like, so, but then it's like also I'm sure there's a generational relationship, right? Like, you know, me, Steve Harvey was very Steve Harvey-ish. You know, but it was like, if you was, you know, a high school cat, you know, you was young at that time, you know, it's like, let me think of somebody that with the kids, like, or I mean, I guess, man, maybe you could go with Wu-Tang, right? Like, there's deep Wu-Tang cuts that I would be like, oh, that I know that song or this song, you know, on this person's album, whatever, that I wouldn't expect, you know, Freedom to know,
right,
or feel the same about. You know what I'm saying? As songs that maybe have bubbled up that we listen to more, right? Where he went into the cut, he'd be like, I don't really understand why he probably likes this song. You know what I'm saying? Like, you had to be there, son. You know what I'm saying? I was in the groove.
Right.
We was riding out to what's his name? Coming across Pennsylvania. We had this bang. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, you know, because it becomes a part of sort of your ethos and your theme music. And so like those the instrumentation of Earth, Wind, and Fire is, to me, is a much about the Earth, Wind, and Fire experience. You know what I'm saying?
Totally agree.
You know what I mean? The horn, that's why I was like, I wonder if they're gonna have like a band. You know what I'm saying? Or are they just gonna be on the, and I think the way they did it was cool because it was also, I mean, one, the sound. There's all kinds of issues with if they had to have a big ass view in terms of what people would see. So I dig how they did it, and just sort of celebrating them, all the creativity of these artists and what they've contributed. But I also could see I was trying to figure out. Like I said, I think by the second half, like everybody got on the same page. But when I jumped in, I was sort of like, is everything going all right? Is everybody feeling like this is how they planned it?
Yeah. No, it was
wasn't
unique.
Bad because we were enjoying it because we love all that music. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of us love these songs. We preach these artists are part of everybody's. You know what I'm saying? Like I think I saw a tweet or something and was like, I feel like I need to go clean my living room and empty the closets and do my like, I mean, because this is you dancing around the house, you taking care of stuff, whatever have you. You know what I mean? And that is for a lot of us where music like this sits. You know what I'm saying? Or you ride into something. You go into some kind of family event or whatever. You know what I'm saying? As a kid, and this is what's playing. You know what I'm saying? It was dope though, just to also put into context, like, sort of the perspective or the arc of someone being creative, because it's like, I mean, it's the 70s, it's like 40 years ago almost now. You know what I mean? So it's hard to think about it that way. I mean, it's not. It is that I'm 45. I was born in the 70s. It's definitely 40 years ago. But it's like, they still here, you know what I'm saying? As long as they get on stage, do their thing, you know what I'm saying? I don't know what it feels like to be them. You know what I'm saying? Still like, that level of fame and accolade, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes can have interesting ways that it plays out as you progress through life. And like, so I thought that was dope. A question I have for you: what did you think of like the song selections? Like, did anything stand out to you in the way that it was put together, or the choices?
Well, I think you bring up a good point about the fast songs for both groups, and I think there's a distinct thing about the fast songs for both groups. I think once you listen to some of the fast songs for the Isleys, you're reminded of the phases that they came through. Because you figure, and this is for our age, you have the Isleys that come through doing like kind of almost like soul rock, right? Like, kind of like a rock and roll-esque kind of feel. Then you know them for these classic quote unquote baby making songs, right? So then that's your definition. Like, okay, the Isleys, you Brown Isley. And then kind of goes dark, and the next thing you know is Mr. Biggs doing songs with R. Kelly, right? So like
he
this
who shall not be named.
So it's like R. Kelly was definitely the missing. First of all, he's not missing in any way from anything that should happen.
Right, we know exactly where he at.
Yeah, but it's like there definitely is a space there of like, Mr. Kelly as relationship to Ronald Isley. And so in that whole Isley Brothers thing, and I think because of our age and us coming up in a quiet storm culture, right? Because we came up in a quiet storm culture, what did we hear? We heard most of the slower Isley Brothers songs. So to your point, I wasn't as aware, frankly, of many of the faster ones, right?
Yeah.
Earth, Wind, and Fire. Exactly. Earth, Wind, and Fire is similar, but a little different, if only because I think their music, at least for my own history, kind of all their music was kind of more central to my childhood, right? Even the faster songs, right? Because, the Earth, Wind, and Fire vibe was also this broader vibe of like Black empowerment, Black creativity, as is the Isleys, but just under a different form, right? So all the same, but just a different form. So that Earth, Wind, and Fire culture is kind of like closer to that, like, you know, you're thinking about these possibilities of Black people, right? So when you got this music that kind of represents this, like, the elements and thinking about the history of the future of Black people, that was a little more central to. That being said, again, I was concerned about how are we going to listen to these fast songs that sound like it needs to be at least 10 to 15 players for Earth, Wind, and Fire in particular.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? With 3 guys, right? Yeah. And like, you know, and Maurice White not being here, right? And so, because that's also a central part, right? Like, as amazing as it was with who was there from Earth, Wind, and Fire, and obviously Philip Bailey's amazing voice, imagine we would have had a conversation about the Isley brothers, but Ronald Isley wasn't there.
Right.
In some senses, I felt like that's how Earth, Wind, and Fire kind of is without Maurice White, right? Mm-hmm. But I thought they did a good job of capturing the collective imagination of not just Black folks, but I think just people, according to where they were when they heard that music. I think it was a good way to celebrate and even, I think, further move Verzuz away from a sound clash concept, right? Because clearly Verzuz emerged as a sound clash, right? Like an abbreviated version of a Jamaican dancehall sound clash that the rest of us can understand, right? Because they really do a sound clash for the most part, the rest of us, you know. And that's why it's interesting with Verzuz when you actually saw a sound clash between Beanie Man and Bounty Killer, how different it was, because it was like a sound clash. You know what I mean? Whereas the rest of them, we say they're competing, but really it's more, you know, a celebration. I think this one, he moved it even further away from the sound clash, which in the context of what they're trying to do, I don't think is a bad thing. So, you know, I think they hit the classics. I think, you know, the adding of D-Nice as a DJ kind of in the middle and just giving people a general good feel was smart. I mean, obviously we could Monday morning quarterback Steve Harvey's fawning and desire to insert himself as central to the conversation as the Elements and the Isleys. But I think there's a population of people that also see kind of that banter and people framing that experience as central to it as well.
Yeah. Well, and I think it speaks to what's important, the idea of somebody who's of the era, who was a fan, right?
Yeah.
Because in many ways, like I said, I still imagine, you know, a lot of people's family gatherings that are hopefully were COVID safe on that day. You know what I'm saying? It was probably like, wait, how we get this on the phone? I can watch it on my iPad. Nothing. Come on, show me how this works. Tell me,
right?
You know, what's the name of that? What's the name of that?
Right?
Is it a website? How I get on there? Like, and you know, I think that there's something cool about, though, the idea that of kind of making that cross connection with a cultural product, with a creative entertainment product, right? Where you're getting different ages, you know, using it or engaging with it. I don't know, you know, if they have data on that, if they have any way to get demographic understanding of who was watching them. I guess they could from the live. I'm sure there's some kind of report that you can.
Yeah, and I'm sure between the Twitter, the demos that they have of all the people, right? Because we give our demos up, frankly, when we participate in half of this stuff. So, you know, and also I want to say, shout out to Ronald Isley for giving men with no style a way to figure out how just to look cool. Because that's the bottom line of it. Like, everybody like, oh, look at Ronald Isley. It's kind of like, so basically, now you're gonna have a whole bunch of dudes that beards ain't totally, you know, it's salt and pepper. Now they're going to straight gray, right? They're gonna find the best barber possible, get some veneers, and now they're gonna be a granddaddy or some shit. Like, you know what I mean? So shout out to Ronald Isley for giving these dudes shortcuts.
You still got a chance. You might still be able to get into the game, man. I'm saying Ronald gave him a pathway.
You know, so now everybody go out and get them a fur coat and get them a cane so they can, you know, hopefully they
get me a suit with some paisley. It was like a paisley. Was that a paisley that he had?
Hopefully they did it this week because it's over now. So they better have took advantage of it. They better have got to it this week, Jack. That's all the way over. But yeah, shout out to Ron Isley for, you know. Also, I'm gonna say this. I be thinking like in that kind of situation. So everybody, look at how good Ron Isley look. And do like the men and women's lives be like, damn, so Ron Isley look better than me? like, do I need to go get my shape up better? Do I need to like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
What do you?
It's that aspect, man, with folks, especially because you know when folks be old. I mean, let's make those. These men, they 79, 80 years old, like almost all of them. I think 70, upper 70s for sure, like mid 70s. And you know that's when folks get old, they'd be like, "Oh man, you see what's name? Oh, he looking good." You know what I'm saying? Like that concept that like you look healthy, like you don't look like. You
don't look like your age.
Say in the least morbid way possible, because I know what we're gonna add on about in a moment. But like, it don't look like you about to leave us. Like,
right?
Look like you still with us. Like, oh man, it look like you eating good. You know what I'm saying? Your skin look clear. You know what I'm saying? Like you're standing up, moving around on your own. And shit. Like, it's because folks, the way age goes in our community, man, is like. I always think one is the waves and the thresholds, and I think we'll probably speak on this in a moment. You know what I mean when we speak about the brother, that like some folks get to 70 and it's like man,
yeah,
hanging in there. You know what I'm saying? And some people get 70, they like the sister that run the vegan spot out in Inglewood. You know what I'm saying? She come in like she about to take us. She like, y'all trying to hit the rack? What's up? We gonna do these sets or what? I'm like, oh shit, hold up. We just got off a plane. We ain't really, you know what I'm saying? You been here eating vegetables all day, doing bad squats and shit. Give us a minute. You know what I'm saying? Like
she definitely was one of them people who make you step your game up and think about, did you have any magnesium in your diet?
like your mineral levels straight.
Yeah, like what's your mineral levels? Like your mineral levels is off because hers wasn't, Jack. She was.
You know what I'm saying? No, so I think I that's the energy that I thought about it in. I mean, I'm sure it's also, definitely women his age. I was like, because we think sometimes. I mean, not everybody, but so it's a lot of our elders. They still like to have they like an eye catcher. You know what I'm saying? Every once in a while, like I see you over there. You know what I'm saying? I see you over there looking, you know what I mean? You looking really nice, Miss Vonnie. You know what I'm saying? You see Mr. Charles? You see that suit? Still got it. You know what I'm saying? Like, also he was always a fine man. You know what I'm saying? Like,
one time, one offline, I'll tell you a story about me and Knowledge Bill running one day, and one of our older sisters, who hit us with a line that by all accounts, if it was done the other way, would have been the most offensive thing in the world. But she was able to say it and smile and look at us, and there was nothing we could just say other than being amazed. Like, did she just say that to us?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she said it
straight out and didn't feel no sort of way about saying it. So yeah, shout out to all the older sisters letting folks know that it's still active.
You know what I'm saying? Wink, wink.
Wink, wink.
Wink, wink. Yes, I see you. Wink, wink. Oh man. So all right, yeah, that's all I had on that.
Yeah.
So I mean, we had intended to go another way today, but I think in light of the reality, the brother DMX, Earl Simmons.
That's right.
Returning this week, that it would be, you do the respect and the love to hold some space for the brother, man. And, big up to his family and him and his impact. I'll let you lead off. What's just some of your thoughts about, DMX you know what I mean, and what he contributed or how he showed up, you know, for you or on your mind in the moments of this reality.
Yeah, man. It's couple thoughts about X, man, about the dog, so to speak. You know, I don't want to start with anything almost that's too melancholy, right? Because sometimes we get to doing that with people and we forget about joy and the joy they brought. So I don't want to be one of the people who gets to the melancholy piece of talking about someone whose life was not all melancholy. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And we can start doing that around people's lives. And, you know, I understand as, you know, when you go back over someone's life, you like to touch on those things. So I'm going to start with being like, one, about what I thought about his career first. Like, one, I think X was one of the first contemporary emo rappers. Right? I think him and Ghostface were actually of this like contemporary, and I wouldn't even know if I'll say contemporary generation at this juncture, but of that 90s culture that kind of gave birth to these like extreme forms of expression, right? Like prior to them, you had people like Ghetto Boys who obviously, you know, were talking about depression, and Scarface who was talking about a whole host of things, but it wasn't framed as an extreme emotion. It was kind of, here's just my take on the thing. And his take on the thing was tinged with anxiety and depression, if that makes sense, right? Cube and Ren obviously gave birth to an anger, right? Like that whole NWA culture kind of propagated a degree of like anger. But they were also communicating almost for the voice of the time, right? So it wasn't just like them. It was like, okay, you know, I'm speaking for South Central and Compton, right? X was kind of like, I think one of the first guys that came out in this, you know, kind of modern hip hop era that was kind of like, no, this is who I am. Like I can snap at any time, right? Like the person you know in the neighborhood that can snap at any time.
Right.
The guy
was holding it all together.
Exactly. The dude that is slightly uncontrollable, that you look in the room and trying to figure out where he's at today, right? And all of us know people and new people who, like to your point, I'm trying to keep this all together, man. Please don't look at me a second time. Like,
right. Right. Where you saying, like, hey man, you straight? And like, and he know that you saying that because he's like, I'm trying to make sure you cool, because if you ain't cool, I'm gonna leave.
Right.
Because I don't want, you know.
X had that energy, right? And so I think X and Ghostface both, you know, Ghostface kind of gave you that energy in different ways too, right? Two, I think about X in the context of post-Pac, right? That with the death of Pac, if X wasn't who he was naturally, I think the industry would have invented him. But they didn't have to, because he was who he was naturally, right? Because when you kind of lost that energy and, you know, kind of, and Pac stuff was kind of wrapped up in the East Coast, West Coast stuff by his untimely demise, right? Where X was freed from the limitation of that, but still brought that broader kind of unrestrained energy to the industry. So the East Coast essentially got them a Pac, right? I got my shirt off. I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? Like, I'm off the handle, right? I'm as authentic as they come, right? Where you could argue if Pac might have had some of those challenges with authenticity. X has none of them. At all, right? And so I think that he was almost like that level of boost. And I think you see it interestingly because you see from Pac dying, Puffy and them is like the 97, 98, but then by 98, X is arguably the biggest thing in hip hop, and 98, 99 belonged to him. I mean, he had 2 number 1 albums in 1 year, right?
He went all the way in.
Yeah, like he was the biggest thing during that time. And I think it's even interesting that we can forget that during those times, Jay-Z was second fiddle.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Jay wasn't the guy in 99. I mean, he was the guy maybe as far as some of the elements of the street and start doing Hard Knock Life and stuff like that. But in a sense of who was controlling the streets, it was Rough Riders. You know what I mean? And, want to look to do maybe a hip hop crew conversation with you in a second. And then like later on, because I think it's an important conversation that we do leave Rough Riders out of this like idea of what they brought to the table. And I'll divert just a little bit here and say, I often talk about how Diddy took Harlem, Diddy perpetually takes Harlem and repackages it for you. Like he constantly takes like just Harlem culture and gives it to you again. Rough Riders took the other side of Harlem culture and gave it to you. The other side of Bronx culture, the other side of like that Mount Vernon, Yonkers relationship to Uptown and just gave it to you. The bikes, the hustling, not the jazzy part of Harlem, but the 148th in Amsterdam. And you know what I'm saying? Like 130th in St. Nick. Like he gave you those other parts of Harlem, right? Because even though X is, as much as he was from Yonkers, you figure out how much they grounded much of their culture in this broader Uptown energy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think what I did, like as it was progressing, is I was trying to do two things, and I thought Belly was on one of the platforms that apparently I can't remember where it was at because I had made a mental. I was like, I'm gonna go watch Belly again. Belly's not a good movie, but it's like good for what it is, and he's fantastically entertaining in the movie. You know what I'm saying? Right? And I was, and the reason why I thought about that because the thing that struck me and that sticks with me about DMX is, I'm a proponent of the idea that for a person that understands, righteousness and the value of care and compassion and empathy can often be very close to the other side of that in terms of what understanding what like callousness is, what pain is like, what being harsh. And the thing, I think Jermaine to what you described, like with a dude like X, and we all know a dude like that who is like, if it's the wrong day, shit, like what we gonna do? But that same dude, maybe the dude that something happened and he came back with 5 bags of groceries for the lady down the street, or somebody was getting messed with and he ain't let it go down like that. You know what I'm saying? Like that puts a level of, that has a joy and a care actually inside of them that manifests in these different ways. So even in these songs where you're talking about your pain and your hurt and what you've been through, it's not necessarily for like sulking, right? It's not like for you to be sad about me. It's for you to understand like this is what I've survived or what I've experienced, or what someone else like me is going through, or what's on their mind, or how they're trying to deal with these things. You know what I'm saying? Like someone that, would defend the people that they care about. You know what I'm saying? Would put themselves in harm's way for others. You know what I'm saying? And I was listening to then I was going through songs. I was what's my shit? Like Stop Being Greedy. I just shared that because I do enjoy that. I like to tell the truth. I was trying not to like DMX when it happened. I was like, man, I don't want to like these.
Right.
But also that's just because we was doing, it was all the guy, the things you do when you're young and just like another man, it might be cool. You're like, well, why they like him? I don't gotta like that. You know what I'm saying? I admit it. I'm a hater. I'll be not liking stuff at first, but then I'll be like, that's all right. That's actually kind of dope. My fault. I was hating. You know what I'm saying? I'll own that. You know what I'm saying? But he has jams. He has songs that are just like, at first you're like, what is it? And you're like, wait a minute. Stop talking shit. You know what I'm saying? Like yeah. Like straight up. X, you know what I'm saying?
Right, like you white, because you want to be in a meeting, you want to tell somebody, stop talking shit.
I'm saying? Like, it's an overwhelming, like, proactive energy. You know what I'm saying? That X would bring to the song, and you just like, yo, man, I'm down with that. You know what I mean? And I enjoyed. And then also I did watch Cradle to the Grave because I couldn't find Belly last night. You know, again, not a great movie, not a bad movie though. You know what I'm saying? X out here robbing, stealing jewels, got to save his daughter and shit. You know what I mean? But I appreciated that, like, it seemed like he was really like, in the mode, like he was really into it. You know what I'm saying? And I like to see, you know, I don't know what doing that movie meant to him. You know what I'm saying? But I thought it was interesting to think of someone's cultural impact, right? And how they showed up, you know what I'm saying? And something that I've always felt is interesting about hip hop and hip hop artists specifically in a way, we don't appreciate that folks are artists and they may have had, if they had different circumstances, there's other ways they may have expressed themselves besides rap.
Right.
Given the opportunity, you know what I'm saying, or the circumstance. And, you know, I just think that, like, he is, you know, the epitome of the type you want to see that dude make it. Yeah, I mean, if you had that guy, the cat that, you know, he self-describes out here jacking folks and doing various things as a teenager, like, get to the other side of that at some point, hopefully, and see some joy, see some positivity in his life. You know what I mean? Like, he had a lot of, you know, we had a good set of kids and, you know what I'm saying, family, and, you know, my, you know, and his willingness to share, you know what I'm saying, the struggles, you know what I'm saying, with addiction, what have you, which, like, I think it's always important to remind people that, man, addiction is incredibly difficult. And when you have a family member that's in addiction, you know, they may or may not recover. And if they do recover, they may not ever be the person that you remembered if you had the fortune to really know them before they were in addiction. There's and it's hard for them, more obviously more than it's hard for you. But it's like, we all, I think, can connect with the idea that you want that person to be healthy, and you hope that, you know, they can survive what the long-term effects, you know what I'm saying, of that experience. And that for some people, you know what I mean, they touch a substance and they touch it a couple times and they was able to walk away. And some people, it don't play out like that. And it's just hard. And so I wanted to
can I touch on that?
Yeah.
I want to, because I think that's the other point of my thing, the other side of the streets.
Mm-hmm.
There was a place where, and even to this day, there's a glorification of the hustler. Now, it's important for everybody to remember this is not unique to our communities, right? To the Black community in particular. Yeah. If anyone's ever heard of a narco corrida, like, they got songs dedicated to narcotics travelers in Mexico. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can have a whole suite of songs dedicated to El Chapo and the Juarez cartel, right? Mm-hmm. And so that is, I think, to some degree, a human thing. Listen to anything from Willie Nelson, at a certain point, you'll be clear he's rooting for the bad guy. Mm-hmm. Now, there's some other poverty and kind of issues intertwined in ours, and, you know, that make it extremely prevalent. But, like, we champion that idea. X was another part of the ecosystem, right? So just like in the quote unquote, I'm just using in our communities, not necessarily in the hood, because it ain't always in the hood. You've got people that's hustling, and then you got guys that's stealing stuff from people that's dealing with addiction, right? They're addicted to something, right? And it's part of the ecosystem. So when you want to glamorize one part of the ecosystem, just know there's another part of the ecosystem, right? Like, and understand that those things have long-term impacts, because somebody could argue X was in and out of rehab, you know, but the challenges he had emotionally, to your point that he shared, that didn't outweigh his joy, didn't overweigh his ability to make you laugh, right? At the end of the day, his relationship to his challenges were very personal. We just saw them.
Right.
And I just think it's important for us to take that, like, real life has many of these complex challenges, and that our communities have many of these complex challenges in the other forms of the ecosystem below the surface of the music and the culture that we often glamorize. You know what I mean? And for me, X was and is a constant reminder of that. Because for every person you think you sold drugs to, there's a person that took the drug.
Right.
Right. And that person exists. That person exists in a variety of places, in our families, in our culture, in our communities. Right. And it didn't take away their joy. It didn't take away where they would take their shirt off their back for someone. It didn't take away their loyalty to them, their community, but it also meant they had some challenges. So, you know, that was just a really other side, I think, that that always needs to be stood up when thinking about him. In the music that he gave us, right? I was able to see a clip, and I'll try to see if I can find it. It's a clip of him doing a prayer rap in Philly in like 2017. He went to a men's shelter of men who have been dealing with substance issues, and did this like inspiring 2-3 minute rap. Amazing, like classic. At the same time, he was going through those challenges. You see what I'm saying? And that's the complexity that people have. That's the multi-dimensional complexity that sometimes we can downplay in music, and we can downplay in life. That people are a sum total of all these things, that they're not their worst day, and sometimes they ain't their best day, right? But they are the sum total of all that came together to develop them. And just one other piece I wanted to have on that was, to your point about X in the early 90s, I mean the late 90s, the other part of that was that kind of blood, the industry made sure that they focused on him around the idea of blood, right? Now, if you think about the first album, and all red behind him, talking about death. You think about the second album where he's coming out of blood, like, you know, what's the name, full of blood, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, we know that on the East Coast, the United Blood Nation was, quickly proliferating, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's another example of like, okay, you took someone's struggles, or, you know, and I don't think he was ever actually affiliated with blood, but like, they took that, man, they took this kind of energy again, this kind of unrestrained energy, to match this other unrestrained energy that was taking place on the streets, and really kind of put it together, you know what I mean, in ways that I had to mature and then understand that it may or may not have been him personally wanting to like make blood like bigger. That was also part of like the industry thing. You know what I mean? Which was one of the reasons I was like, I like this guy, but all this coming out of a bathtub. You know what I'm saying? Like, in that time, if you know what's going on in the streets, you got almost like the biggest rapper in the world sending subliminal messages around one gang versus the other. Right? Now, this is before we've all become really comfortable with being like, oh, he's a blood, he's a Crip. Like, he's a Vice Lord, he's a gangster disciple. Like, you know, we weren't at that place in kind of hip hop culture at that time. So.
Yeah. No, that's a good pull out. And I think that you know, it's a reminder that, you know, the artists of our time are aging like we're aging. And it's, you know, I think tying back to, you know, the Earth, Wind and Fire and the Isleys, the the relationship with someone's creative product, the things that they've offered and they brought to us, is ongoing. Even if it exists, even if they don't make no new records, you know what I'm saying? Like what they did is still with us. But also like what someone lives through, has those longer term ramifications on their life. And you hope, or you wish or you will, that, they will have as long a life as I guess as one could have. But the amount of things where I've seen people responding to it, and most of the time when people die, people return, we do make it personal about us. And even when we're trying not to, we can be like, oh man, you have a minute, you know what I'm saying? Or you'll see it in the words where someone's thinking about their own mortality. You know what I mean? And and I think it's, the other side to that other side conversation is, and I always felt when you listen to X's records, I mean, again, like he is talking about, various things, running up on people, but there is a continual thing that like, this is all painful. Like all this stuff I'm doing doesn't necessarily make me happy. It doesn't necessarily improve my life. And at least to me, there's the message within that like, maybe I can get to the other side of this, this being what my life was, you know what I'm saying? Or music created an opportunity for me, my pathway to not have these things that I was involved in, experienced, suffered from, what have you, be what my life was, or right. All that my life was. And I think that there's a lot of people in our community that are in that same place, without, music necessarily being the pathway that got them out of that world or gave them a pathway to do something, to be and see these other parts of their life be fruitful. And sometimes, sadly, they are left with things that they kind of like the point where they got it together pretty good. And then you have something come back, you have, liver issues, you got kidney issues, you got these different things, you got stuff from years of stress and high cortisol, you got, damaged parts of your body. I mean, if you've been shot or maimed or stabbed and you have some lingering, for real injury, that's for permanent shaping part of your life due to what you experienced and what you went through. And I think sometimes in our conversation about service, relationship, care for folks that have been engaged, in all the aspects of the gray economy and the life, so to speak, how do we deal with health and care for people? You know what I'm saying? I think it's something that should be elevated. And then there's, because I don't want to go too far off into that. I'm just thankful, to the brother, for what he contributed, to our lives, to the music, and wish the best for him and as for his family and the folks that knew him best and loved the most. You know what I'm saying? That they gonna be, all right. You know what I mean? The rest of us, we're gonna make it. You know what I mean? But
yeah, when everyone stops sending RIP shout outs, they got to deal with that challenge, but I think to your point, kind of engaging in it also with the joy around a person's life. Because then that starts to chronicle what we want to see around build versus destroy. Right. And so I think, I'm thankful for X for a whole host of lines, most of which I won't quote on here because they are absolutely hilarious and absolutely inappropriate.
That's a private conversation.
But I think, again, stop talking shit is a great one. That and my other favorite one of that song, I'm not a nice person. You know what I mean? Like, shout out to X you know what I'm saying? Like, let's shred it. Like, listen, man, I'm not a nice person. Like,
Right.
It wasn't a lot of people in hip hop talking about like, yo, man, leave me alone. You know what I mean? While being absolutely hilarious and dancing and, you know what I mean, with him and Snoop and the Verzuz, you know what I mean? Which is also good, I think, because a lot of people, the last time they got to see him was on Verzuz in the best space at that juncture that you could see of him in a long time, which is important. See somebody off as they existed, not as the idea that you have of them in your heads.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So with that, you know what I mean? I think you want to cover something else?
No, we good.
All right, cool. All right,
keep it digestible.
yeah. With that, man, I'll say peace.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to Good Brothers. Thank you to my good brother, I'm Majestic. Thank you to you, the listeners. As always, please listen, share, rate, subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Pass it on to a friend, family member, whomever, whatever that may enjoy listening to our conversations, listen to the things that we discuss. There are also ways you can support the podcast is by becoming a patron on Patreon. It's a couple different levels. Still an area that's in development, but every bit counts and helps to offset what it costs me to put this together and to keep this going and to keep our conversation flowing. Other than that, if you really enjoy the show and you want to get some feedback, there's several options. You can send me a message directly. You can send me an email. You can hit me at Justice Rajee at Good Brothers Pod on Instagram. You can send a telegram. No, you can't send a telegram. I'm joking. But, check the show notes, and there's plenty of ways you can communicate with me and Majestic and leave a message. So in any event, man, much love and respect to DMX and his family and everybody that knew the brother. Wish them well, and they go through a time of grieving and loss. Much respect and peace.